Transit Hall of Port Kepri was built to make people feel small. The ceiling rose so high that it disappeared into pale blue light. The floor was smooth black stone that reflected every movement. Thousands of beings passed through every hour, yet the space felt cold and tense. Like a place waiting for something to go wrong, Han Era stood in the security line without complaint. She wore simple gray clothing, loose and unmarked. No symbols. No ranks. No weapons. To anyone watching, she looked like an ordinary human traveler. Her dark hair was tied back. Her hands rested calmly at her sides. Her face showed no fear, no anger, and no hurry. The line moved slowly. Scanners hovered above each traveler, glowing softly as they read biology, origin, and threat markers. Most species passed through with a soft chime. Some caused delays. A few caused alarms. Ara stepped forward when the line reached its end. The scanner lowered in front of her face. Light passed over her eyes, her skin, her bones. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the scanner's light shifted color. A low tone echoed across the hall. On the main display, a single word appeared. Earthborn. The sound of the hall changed. Conversation stopped. Footsteps slowed. Even the air seemed heavier. Several guards turned at once. Their armor was dark green, marked with the seal of Port Authority. Their hands moved closer to their weapons. Not fast, but not slow either. They had been trained for this. Era did not move. The scanner repeated the word. Louder this time. Earthborn Lee Daesu, the duty officer on watch, felt his stomach tighten. He was human, like Era, but he wore the uniform of interstellar security. He had seen the word appear only twice before in his 5 years at the port. Both times, the situation had ended badly. He stepped forward, raising one hand to signal the guards to wait. Clear the area, he said calmly. No one argued. Travelers moved away from the line, some quickly, some staring in fear. A few alien species backed away, as if the word itself could harm them. Era remained still, her eyes focused straight ahead. She did not look at the guards. She did not look at the scanner. She simply waited. Daesu approached until he stood a few steps away from her. Ma'am, he said, keeping his voice even. The scanner has flagged you. I need you to confirm your origin. Ara nodded once. Earth, she said. Her voice was quiet. Normal. There was no pride in it. No challenge. A murmur spread through the watching crowd. An alien supervisor moved closer, his long neck stiff with tension. His species had once ruled 3 systems before losing them all in a single war. He did not like humans. He liked the word Earthborn even less. That designation is outdated, the supervisor said sharply. Humans are registered as low-risk civilians, scanner answered for Era. Threat classification. Conditional. The supervisor's eyes widened. Daesu swallowed. Conditional meant the system did not know what would happen next. It meant the subject could be harmless or catastrophic, depending on response. Era turned her head slightly, looking at the supervisor for the first time. I am not armed, she said. I am traveling legally. Her words were simple, honest. The supervisor hesitated. He did not like hesitation. He especially did not like it in front of others. Step aside for secondary inspection, he ordered. Era obeyed. She walked calmly to the marked area. No guards touched her. No restraints were used. Everyone remembered the warnings in the training manuals. Do not provoke. Do not threaten. Do not rush. As Era stepped into the inspection zone, a young alien enforcer moved into position. He was tall, broad, and proud of his strength. His species valued physical dominance. He had heard stories about humans. But stories were not the same as proof. He decided to test her. Without warning, he struck. It was not meant to kill. It was meant to scare. A fast kick aimed at her side, strong enough to send her crashing to the floor. The crowd gasped. Era caught the kick. She did not move her feet. Her hand closed around the attacker's leg as if it weighed nothing. The impact made a sharp sound, but her body did not shift. The floor did not crack. The scanner nearby spiked with energy readings that made technicians shout in alarm. For a heartbeat, the entire hall was silent. Era looked at the enforcer, her expression calm. Almost gentle. "This is not needed," she said. She released his leg. The enforcer stumbled backward. His balance broken, his confidence shattered. He did not attack again. Desu stared, his training forgotten. He had known, in theory, what humans could do. But seeing it so clearly, so effortlessly, was different. Security feeds recorded everything. Across the port, analysts froze the image again and again. A single human, unprepared, unarmed, stopping a trained enforcer without strain. The supervisor stepped back. "This incident will be reported," he said, his voice unsteady. Era nodded. "That is fine," she replied. She stood quietly as protocols restarted around her. Medical teams checked the enforcer. He was unhurt. His pride would take longer to heal. Somewhere far from Port Kepri, data packets began to spread. The footage moved faster than any ship. Faster than any official statement on Earth. Park Yoonji watched the clip in silence. She was a diplomat, trained to read faces in moments. She understood at once what the galaxy would see. Not violence. Control. Restraint. Power that did not need to prove itself. At the same time, deep space, Captain Kim Serene received the alert. Her fleet was on patrol, quiet and ready. She did not smile when she saw the footage, "So it begins," she said softly. Back in the transit hall, Ara was cleared to continue her journey. No apology was given. None was asked for, as she walked away. Whispers followed her. Earthborn. The word no longer sounded like a warning. It sounded like a memory. And the galaxy had just remembered something it had. Tried very hard to forget. The video did not stop moving. Once it left Port Kref, it crossed systems in minutes. It passed through private networks, public channels, and hidden archives. Some versions were clear. Some were slowed. Some were paused at the exact moment Han Era caught the kick without moving. The galaxy watched in quiet rooms filled with soft light. Analysts replayed the footage again and again. They zoomed in on her hand. On her feet? On the scanner readings that spiked and then fell back to normal as if nothing had happened. The data did not make sense to many of them. Humans were listed as average. Not strong, not fast, not dangerous. Yet the evidence said otherwise. On a trade station far from the core worlds, an old historian named Ryle watched the clip in silence. He had seen that word before. Earthborn. It had not been used in public for generations. He opened sealed records with shaking hands. "So they still exist," he whispered. On Earth, the response was slower, but heavier. Park Yoonji stood in a secure briefing room, her hands folded in front of her. The walls displayed still images from the incident. No sound, no commentary. Just the moment. Across from her sat members of the Earth Council. Military officers, scientists, civil leaders. No one spoke. "They will ask questions," Yanji said at last, "and they will not like the answers." One of the officers nodded. "They already fear us," he said. "Now they remember why." Yoonji did not argue. She had spent years smoothing tension, hiding sharp edges behind careful words. She knew when words were no longer enough. Han Ara followed protocol, she continued. She used restraint. "That matters. It always mattered," another voice replied. "They just forgot. It's far from Earth." Captain Kim Saren watched the same footage aboard her command ship. The bridge was quiet. Her crew waited. She did exactly what she was trained to do, Saren said. Minimum force. Maximum clarity. Her first officer shifted uneasily. "Will this change things?" he asked. Saren looked at the stars ahead. "It already has." Back at Port Kepri, the transit hall had not returned to normal. Security patrols doubled. Scanners were recalibrated. The word Earthborn was removed from public displays, replaced with neutral symbols. But everyone remembered, Lee Daesu sat alone in a small office reviewing reports. His hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from the weight of understanding. He replayed the moment where Era stood still. Where she chose not to strike back. She could have broken him, he muttered. She chose not to. A knock sounded at the door. An alien official entered. His movements stiff. The council has issued a request, the official said. They want a formal explanation. About the designation, Daesu nodded. They always do, he said. Meanwhile, the footage reached less official places, in private arenas and underground forums. Fighters and mercenaries debated what they had seen. Some laughed it off. Some argued it was fake. One young enforcer watched the clip in silence, his face pale. He recognized the attacker. That could have been me, he said quietly. Across the galaxy, fear began to change shape. It was no longer loud. It was thoughtful. At a small station orbiting a dead moon, a group of fringe leaders met in secret. They were tired of Earth's quiet influence, tired of treaties, tired of restraint. If they are so strong, one of them said, let them prove it. They planned something small, something deniable. A test. Hanera did not know any of this. She sat alone in a transport cabin, staring out at the slow drift of stars. The seat was uncomfortable. The lights were too bright, but she did not complain. Her communicator vibrated. A simple message appeared. Stand by. She closed her eyes. She had lived her whole life knowing what Earthborn meant. Not as a title, but as a responsibility. Strength was not a gift. It was a burden, one that required constant control. She remembered her training. Endless balance drills, impact tolerance tests, lessons that focused more on when not to act than when to strike. You are not here to win, her instructor had said. You are here to end things before they begin. The transport-docked Era stepped out into another station, smaller, older, quieter. She blended in easily. Humans had learned long ago how to disappear in plain sight, but eyes followed her. Not openly, carefully, in a distant system. An alarm sounded aboard a human refugee platform. It was a simple place. Families, workers, children, a single hostile ship emerged from fold. Space, it did not fire immediately. It sent a message. This is a warning. The platform's commander froze. On Earth. The message arrived seconds later. General Yoon Hae-jin read it once. Then again, this is not random, she said. No, Yunji replied through the secure channel. It's a response. Hae-jin stood. Then we answer. Orders moved quietly through human networks. No speeches. No threats. Just movement. Captain Saren's fleet altered course. At the refugee platform, the hostile ship fired a single shot. It struck empty space. A clear signal, then it waited. The waiting did not last long. Human ships arrived without fanfare. Their drives were silent. Their formation precise. The hostile ship attempted to flee. It failed, its engines shut down, as if they had never existed. Its weapons went dark. No explosions. No debris. The human fleet held. Position. A message was sent. Leave. The hostile ship was released. It limped away. The entire encounter lasted less than 3 minutes. The galaxy noticed back on the station. Era felt the shift before the news reached her. A tightening in the air. A sense of alignment. Her communicator vibrated again. You are clear. She exhaled slowly across countless worlds. Leaders stared at their displays. The pattern was forming. Humans did not strike first, but when they moved, they ended things cleanly. On Port Kepri, the alien supervisor who had ordered Era aside watched the reports in silence. His hands shook. We misjudged them, he said. Daesu stood beside him. No, he replied. You forgot. As the day ended, the word Earthborn appeared again in restricted files. This time with new notes. New warnings, not about danger, about limits, about lines that should not be crossed. Hanera boarded another transport, her role finished for now. She sat among strangers who pretended not to notice. The galaxy was changing, not because humanity had shouted, but because it had finally been heard. The request from the Galactic Council arrived without ceremony. It did not accuse. It did not threaten. It simply asked for explanation. On Earth, Park Yunji read the message twice before she stood from her desk. Around her, the city moved as it always did. Traffic flowed. People worked. Children laughed in parks. Nothing looked like a world preparing to be judged by the galaxy. They want clarity, she said to the room. We will give them truth. Secure channel opened. Faces appeared. Human representatives from science, law, and defense. General Yoon Hajin listened without speaking. The word Earthborn is causing confusion, Yoonji continued. They believe it means threat. It does, one advisor said quietly. Just not the way they think. Far from Earth, the Galactic Council chamber filled slowly. Delegates arrived from hundreds of worlds. Some were curious. Some were afraid. Some were angry that humans had embarrassed them without raising a hand. At the center of the chamber, a single seat waited. It was not marked as human. It was marked as witness. Han Era stood outside the chamber doors, hands relaxed at her sides. She wore the same simple clothing she always did. No symbols. No rank. Lita Su stood nearby, acting as escort. He tried not to stare. You don't have to do this, he said softly. Ara looked at him and gave a small smile. Yes, she said. I do. The doors opened. The chamber quieted as Ara walked in. Some delegates leaned back. Others leaned forward. Scanners swept over her again, careful and slow. The word did not appear on public screens. But everyone knew, Earthborn, the council speaker. A tall being with calm eyes raised a hand. Hanara of Earth, the speaker said. You are here to explain an incident that has unsettled many worlds. Era inclined her head. I understand, she replied. A delegate spoke at once. Your kind is registered as non-aggressive, it said. Yet you demonstrated force beyond known limits, Era answered simply. I demonstrated control. Murmurs spread. Another delegate stood. The scanner labeled you Earthborn. Our records list that term as obsolete. Why did it activate? Ara paused. She chose her words with care. Because the scanner was built to remember, she said. Even when people forget, silence followed. On the chamber's side displays, historical data began to appear. Old conflicts. Lost fleets. Extinct species. Events with dates removed, names blurred. A historian among the delegates gasped. These are sealed records, he said. Yes, Era replied. They were sealed for a reason. Speaker leaned forward. Explain, Speaker said. Era took a breath. Long ago she began humanity was weak. We were divided. We fought each other more than anyone else. Some delegates nodded. That part was known. We survived because we learned restraint, she continued. Because we learned that winning a fight is not the same as ending a war. Images shifted. Training halls, simulations, humans learning to endure impact. To stand still under pressure, we trained our bodies and our minds, Ara said. Not to dominate. To endure? A delegate interrupted. Endure what? Ara looked up. Everything, she said. The chamber fell quiet again. On Earth, General Heijin watched the feed. Her hands were clasped behind her back. She's telling them the part they never wanted to hear, she said. Back in the chamber, a hostile delegate rose. If this is true, it said, then Earth has hidden military capacity beyond treaty limits. Ara shook her head. No, she replied. Earth hid nothing. You did not ask. The words were calm. They landed hard. Another delegate spoke, voice shaking. Are all humans like you? Ara considered the question. No, she said. Most are stronger. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Lee Desu felt his breath catch. Ara continued. I am trained for restraint, she said. Others are trained for rescue, for labor, for survival in places no one else can live. Images appeared of humans working in extreme gravity, toxic air, deep void. We adapted because we had to, she said. Earth is not gentle. The speaker raised a hand. Then what is Earthborn? Ara answered without hesitation. It is not a title, she said. It is a reminder of what? The speaker asked. Ara met the speaker's gaze. Of what happens when restraint is mistaken for weakness. The chamber erupted in noise. The speaker struck the floor with a staff. Order. The speaker commanded, when quiet returned. The speaker spoke again. You claim humanity chose silence, the speaker said. Why? Ara's voice softened. Because every time we spoke loudly, she said, someone tried to test us. Ah! Memories flickered across the screens. Small attacks, provocations, each ending quickly, quietly. We did not want to be feared, Ara said. We wanted peace. The delegate asked the question many feared. And if peace fails? Ara did not answer at once. She placed her hands together. Then humanity ends the conflict, she said. As fast as possible, with as little harm as possible. The speaker studied her. This sounds like a threat, the speaker said. Ara shook her head again. It is a promise, she replied. The chamber fell silent for a long time. Finally, the speaker spoke. The council will deliberate, the speaker said. You are dismissed. Ara bowed and turned to leave as she walked out. Some delegates looked away. Others watched her with new understanding. Outside the chamber, Desu let out a slow breath. You changed everything, he said. Ara looked tired. I told the truth, she replied. On Earth? Yunji closed her eyes as the feed ended. They can't unhear that, she said. In the days that followed, debates spread across the galaxy. Old data was reviewed. Old warnings reread. Some worlds demanded sanctions. Others requested protection. A few quietly updated their defense plans. At a distant shipyard, Captain Kim Saren received new orders. Not to advance. Not to retreat. To be seen, the message said. Her fleet moved into open space. Not threatening. Not hidden, present. Across the galaxy, scanners began flagging human presence differently. Not as danger as certainty at Port Kepri. Alien supervisor resigned. We were wrong, admitted in his final report. Lee Desu watched ships come and go, the hall calmer now. Travelers still whispered, but the tone had changed. Not fear. Respect. Hanera returned to transit unnoticed again. She preferred it that way. As her ship jumped to fold space, a final message reached the council. Archives. Designation update. Pending Earthborn, meaning. Under review, the galaxy was learning. Slowly, carefully, that humanity's greatest strength was not how hard it could strike, but how long it had chosen. Not to. The days after the council hearing were quiet on the surface, but tense underneath. Across the galaxy, systems adjusted their protocols without public notice. Scanners were recalibrated. Training manuals were rewritten. Old warnings were moved from archives back into active memory. The word Earthborn did not appear on public screens, but it appeared often in closed rooms. On Earth, Park Yoonji felt the change before any official message arrived. Requests came in, one after another. Invitations to talk. Invitations to explain. Invitations to promise things that could not be promised. She refused most of them. Talk only when it matters, she said to her team. Silence is still our strength. General Yoon Hae-jin agreed, but she did not relax. She had learned long ago that when others became polite, danger often followed. They are afraid, she said. Fear makes people careful. It also makes them desperate. Far from Earth, Captain Kim Saren's fleet remained in open space, visible to all. They did not move closer to any world. They did not hide their position. Their presence was calm and steady. Like a line drawn in space, messages arrived from nearby. Systems, requests for escort, requests for observation, requests for help that avoided using the word protection. Saren approved some, she denied others. "We are not here to rule," she told her officers. "We are here to remind." At the same time, not everyone learned the same lesson. On the edge of known space, a coalition of smaller powers met in secret. They had lost influence over the years, pushed aside by larger alliances and human diplomacy. To them, Earth's restraint felt like control. "They speak softly," one leader said. "That makes them dangerous." "Or weak," another replied. "They argued for hours. In the end, fear won over patience. They chose a test, not against a fleet, not against Earth, against people who could not fight back. The target was a human relief convoy moving through neutral space. Medical ships, supply carriers. No weapons beyond basic defense. The attack was meant to be quick. It was not. The first distress signal reached Earth and Saren's fleet at the same time. Park Yoonji saw the alert flash across her screen. Her heart sank. "They chose the worst option," she said. General Hajin closed her eyes for a brief moment. "Respond," she ordered. "But keep the rules." Serene's fleet moved. There was no dramatic jump. No display meant to scare. Human ships arrived with clean precision, forming a barrier between the convoy and its attackers. The attackers fired. Human shields absorbed the impact without return fire. Again, the attackers fired. This time, their weapons shut down mid-burst. Systems failed across their ships as if a switch had been flipped. Saren's voice carried calmly across open channels. "This action is over," she said. "Stand down." Some did. Others panicked. Those who tried to flee found their engines locked. Those who tried to fight found themselves powerless. No ships were destroyed. No lives were lost. The convoy passed safely through. The attackers were left drifting, alive, unharmed, and very aware of what had happened. Across the galaxy, the footage spread. This time, there was no doubt. Humanity had intervened, not with rage, with certainty. On the Galactic Council, Altic, emergency sessions were called. Delegates spoke over one another. Accusations filled the chamber. "You exceeded your authority," one delegate shouted. "Through the channel, you prevented a massacre." Another replied. The speaker raised a hand. "Enough," the speaker said. "We invited explanation. We received it. Now we are witnessing proof." Attention turned once again to Earth. Han Era watched the reports from a quiet room on a station far from the center. She was not involved in the response. She had not been asked to be. That worried her. When restraint was no longer enough, others stepped forward. She remembered her training, the warnings, the lessons about escalation. "When you move," her instructor had said, "make sure there is no need to move again." A message arrived on her communicator. "Remain available." Era exhaled slowly, back on Port Kepri. Lita Su noticed the change in behavior almost immediately. Guards stood straighter. Alien travelers asked questions instead of making jokes. "What happens if someone attacks a human?" one asked. Day Su answered honestly. They stopped. On Earth, public awareness grew. Humans watched the footage with mixed feelings. Pride, yes, but also concern. They remembered history. Every time Earth had been pushed too far, something changed. Park Yoonji addressed a small group of leaders. "We must not let them decide who we are," she said. "Our strength only matters if we choose how to use it." General Hajin nodded. "But we also can't pretend anymore," she said. "The galaxy has seen enough." In response, Earth released a limited archive. Not weapons, not tactics, history, footage of early human conflicts. Of restraint learned through loss. Of survival in impossible conditions. The message was simple: this is why we endure. reactions varied. Some worlds expressed regret, some expressed fear, a few expressed anger. 1. System formally requested a human security agreement. Then another. Then another. The balance was shifting. Not toward empire. Toward gravity. Humanity had become a center, others moved. Around, Captain Saren received a final message for the day. Hold. Position. Observe. Be ready. She looked out at the stars. They still don't understand, she said softly. No, her first officer replied. But they're learning. Hanar aborted a transport once more. She felt eyes on her, but no hostility this time, as the ship prepared to depart. News tickers across the galaxy updated quietly. Earthborn. Designation pending reclassification. Purpose. Under review. Era closed her eyes. Test had been made. The answer had been given. Now came the hardest part, waiting, because humanity knew one truth better than any other. Species. The most dangerous moment was not when power was revealed. It was when others decided how to respond to it, the attack that changed. Everything did not begin with weapons. It began with silence. For 3 days after the failed assault, on the relief convoy, nothing happened. No messages. No protests. No threats. Trade lanes stayed open. Patrol routes stayed normal. Too many. It looked like the galaxy had accepted what it had seen. Humanity did not relax. General Yoon Hejin watched the quiet with suspicion. Experience had taught her that calm could be a mask. Silence is a choice, she said during a secure briefing. And choices have reasons, Park Hyun-ji agreed. She had received fewer messages than usual. That worried her more than angry ones. They're deciding something, Yoon-ji said. We won't know what until they move. The move came far from the core worlds, in a place most maps barely marked. The station was called Haven Drift. It was old and patched together from many eras. Humans and non-humans lived there side by side. It had no military value, no rare resources. Only people. Haven Drift went dark. At first it looked like a power failure. That was common in deep space. Then the distress signal arrived. Broken and weak, systems overridden, medical bays compromised, civilians trapped. The signal cut out. On Earth, alarms sounded across command centers. The room around Hajin snapped into motion. Confirm attackers, she ordered. Multiple ships, an officer replied. No official markings. Coordinated entry. Yoon-ji felt her chest tighten. They chose. Civilians, she said. HAE-Jin. Did not raise her voice. Then the line is crossed, she said. Orders moved faster than words, Captain Kim. Saren's fleet was already moving before the full report finished loading. This time, there was no request to observe. There was only one instruction. End it. Saren stood on the bridge, calm as ever. Her crew felt the difference immediately. Not anger. Focus. Rules still apply, she said. No unnecessary harm. No delays. Acknowledged, her officers replied. At Haven Drift, the attackers moved through the station with confidence. They disabled doors, cut communications, forced people into open areas. They wanted footage. They wanted fear. One of them laughed as he kicked aside a dropped medical kit. Let Earth see this, he said. They did not hear thee. Arrival human ships did not announce. Themselves, they appeared. Every hostile system froze at once. Weapons locked. Shields failed. Internal doors sealed the attackers inside corridors they could not open. The attackers shouted. Some fired uselessly. Some tried to run. Saren's voice reached every channel. This ends now, she said. Human teams boarded Haven Drift. They moved fast, but not wildly. Every step was planned. Every corridor cleared with precision. Civilians were guided to safety first. Children carried. Injured treated on the move. Han Era was already there. She had been passing through Haven Drift when the blackout began. When the first alarm sounded, she did not hesitate. She helped. She lifted debris, forced open sealed doors, shielded others with her own body when systems failed. She did not fight unless she had to. When she did, it was brief. An attacker raised a weapon at a group of civilians. Era stepped forward. The weapon bent. The attacker dropped to the floor. Stunned and unharmed, Era moved on. By the time Saren's teams reached her sector, most civilians were already safe. She was here, an officer reported, staring at twisted metal. Alone. Serene closed her eyes for a moment. Of course she was, she said. The operation ended in under 12 minutes. All attackers were captured. No civilians were killed. Across the galaxy, the footage spread again. This time, there was no confusion about what it meant. This was not a warning. It was a boundary on the Galactic Council. Panic broke through control. Delegates shouted. Some demanded action against Earth. Others demanded protection. The speaker struggled to restore order. You invited this, one delegate accused. You let them act without permission, the speaker answered calmly. We failed to stop it. They did. Earth released a single statement. No threats. No. Demands, only facts. Civilians were attacked. They were protected. Those responsible were detained. Future attacks on non-combatants will be answered. Nothing more, nothing less. Reactions were immediate. Some systems cut ties with the attackers at once. Some quietly turned over intelligence. A few began moving there. Fleets farther from human space. On Earth, people watched the footage of Haven Drift with mixed emotion, relief, pride, sadness. They saw humans carry strangers to safety. They saw Era standing between danger and fear. They remembered old stories. Park Yoonji addressed the public briefly. We did not seek this, she said, but we will not allow it. General Hedgen spoke next. Let this be clear, she said. Humanity will always choose restraint, but restraint is not surrender. In private, she added words meant only for her commanders. If they force us to move again, she said, we will not have to repeat ourselves. Captain Saren met Era after the operation. They stood in a quiet medical bay, the hum of systems filling the space. You didn't wait for orders? Saren said. Era shook her head. There wasn't time, she replied. Saren studied her. You understand what you represent now? She said. Era looked away. I always did, she said. I just hoped it would never be needed. Across the galaxy, the meaning of Earthborn shifted again. Not in words, but in action. It no longer meant potential. It meant response. At Port Kepri, Lee Daesu watched the updates in silence. The transit hall felt different now. Safer, heavier. They won't forget this, he said to a colleague. No, the colleague replied. They won't. As the attackers from Haven Drift were transferred to secure custody. A final message spread through restricted channels. Escalation phase complete. Deterrence established. Await further instruction. Hanara boarded another transport, exhausted but steady. As the ship pulled away, she looked out at the stars. Humanity had drawn its line, not in blood, in protection. And the galaxy now understood something it had ignored for too long. Earth would not chase power, but it would stand where power was needed, and it would not move. The galaxy did not sleep after Haven Drift. Trade slowed. Borders tightened. Patrols doubled. Worlds that had once spoken loudly now chose careful words. Others went silent altogether. Humanity waited on Earth. Park Yoon-ji watched the incoming data streams without speaking. Patterns formed quickly. Fleets pulling back. Secret messages between old rivals. Defensive lines drawn too close to human space. They are afraid of the wrong thing, she said at last. General Yoon Hajin stood beside her. They think power means conquest, Hajin replied. That is how they would use it. Secure alert sounded. Multiple hostile fleet movements detected, not toward Earth, toward neutral systems. They're building a wall, Anji said. And walls create corners. Heijin nodded once. Then we remove the corners, she said. Orders move through human command with calm speed. No speeches. No declarations. Just alignment. Captain Kim Serin received the final directive while standing on her bridge. This time was no ambiguity. Deploy across human space. Fleets moved at once. Not rushing. Not hiding. They emerged into open view, forming patterns no one had seen before. Lines curved instead of pointing forward. Positions overlapped with deliberate gaps. It was not a formation for attack. It was a formation for control. Observers across the galaxy struggled to understand it. They are surrounding nothing, one analyst said. No, another replied slowly. They are surrounding everything that matters. Human fleets positioned themselves near trade lanes, refugee routes, and border systems. They did not block traffic. They did not demand permission. They simply existed. Presence became pressure. Any hostile fleet that moved found itself tracked, not threatened. Just watch. Any weapon test. Failed. Any aggressive probe. Lost signal. The message was clear without words. If you move toward harm, you will not arrive. Hanera watched this unfold from a quiet outpost. She had been ordered to remain off the field. That order mattered. This phase was no longer about individuals. It was about humanity as a whole. She felt the weight of it. Anyway, when a nearby station lost power due to fear-driven overreaction, Era helped restore calm. She spoke to civilians, helped stabilize systems, reminded people to breathe. Strength took many forms. On the Galactic Council, emergency session followed emergency session. Delegates argued until their voices failed. They are occupying space. One shouted, they are preventing war. Another replied. The speaker listened. They have not violated any treaty, the speaker said. They have simply removed your ability to start one. Anger flared. This is domination, a delegate accused. No, the speaker said. This is containment. As debates raged, a coalition fleet attempted a decisive move. They believed humanity could not cover everything at once. They chose a system dense with civilians from many species. If Earth responded, it would look like invasion. If Earth did not, the coalition would prove its point. The fleet advanced. It did not reach the system. Human ships appeared ahead of it, then behind it, then beside it. Not attacking. Not blocking, closing. The coalition commander opened fire. Nothing happened. Weapons shut down. Navigation failed. Communications cut out except for one channel. Captain Saren's voice filled it. Stop, she said. The coalition commander hesitated. We are within our rights, he said. You were, Saren replied. You are not anymore. Human ships moved closer, not threatening. Inevitable, the coalition fleet stood down, across the galaxy. The truth settled in. Humanity did not need permission. Humanity did not need fear. Humanity had reached a level where it could end wars before they began. Earth issued a broadcast soon after. It was brief. It was public. No flags. No uniforms, Park Young-ji spoke plainly. Humanity is not expanding, she said. We are stabilizing. She paused. We will not rule you, she continued. We will not conquer you. Another pause. But we will not allow harm to spread unchecked. That was all. Reactions were immediate. Some worlds formally acknowledged Earth's role. Some protested. Most adjusted. Trade resumed. Refugee routes reopened. The galaxy began to breathe again. General, Heijin addressed her commanders privately. This is not victory, she said. This is responsibility. Captain Serin returned her fleet to a slower pattern. Still present, still watching. Hanera finally received new instructions. Resume civilian status. She read the message. Twice, civilian had always been her role. She boarded a small transport and left the outpost quietly. No one followed. No one stopped her. On Port Kipri, Lidesu noticed something strange. The scanners had been updated. The Earthborn flag no longer triggered alarms, it triggered priority. He stared at the screen for a long time. They changed. He said softly. Yes, a technician replied. They had to cross the council archives. The definition of Earthborn was rewritten. Not a threat marker. Not a warning. A classification of capability. A recognition of limits. Enforced. The galaxy began to adjust it. Stories. Humans were no longer the quiet ones. They were the steady ones. The ones who stood between chaos and collapse. Hanara sat by a viewport as her transport crossed into open space. She watched distant fleets hold their lines. Humanity had declared its power, not with words, with control, with patience, with the choice to stop things. Before they broke, she closed her eyes. There was one part left: understanding, and that would take time. Galaxy did not change all at once. It shifted in small, careful ways. Trade routes adjusted their schedules to pass near human patrol zones. Refugee convoys requested human observers without saying the word protection. Border systems updated their laws to include new clauses, written softly but enforced firmly. On Earth, Park Yoonji watched these changes with quiet focus. There were no celebrations, no banners. Humanity had learned long ago that attention was a blade with two edges. They are learning how to live with us, she said to her team. That will take time. General Yoon Hajin agreed. And patience, she added, which we have earned. The Galactic Council reconvened, not in panic this time, but with purpose. The chamber felt different. Less noise. More space between voices. The speaker opened the session with a simple statement. We must finalize the classification, the speaker said. The one we avoided. Eyes turned to the central display. Earthborn. For centuries, the word had been hidden, erased, or misused. Now it waited to be defined. Historians spoke first. They presented evidence without emotion. Old wars that ended in hours. Conflicts that stopped when humans arrived, not because of destruction, but because resistance failed. Scientists followed. They explained adaptation. Dense gravity. Violent climates. Survival shaping biology and behavior. Legal observers spoke last. Earth did not violate our laws, one said. Our laws failed to imagine restraint at this scale. The speaker listened. Then the speaker asked a question. What does Earth want? The chamber grew quiet. A live channel opened. Park Yoonji appeared, unadorned. No symbols behind her. We want stability, she said. For everyone, the delegate challenged her. And if stability conflicts with our choices? Yoonji answered without hesitation. Then we will stop the conflict, she said. Not your future. The speaker considered this. Then Earthborn will no longer be a threat marker, the speaker said. It will be a designation of capability and responsibility. The vote passed. Across the galaxy, systems updated. Earthborn, sovereign stabilizing class. The change was quiet. But it was permanent. On Port Kepri, Lee Dae-soo noticed the effect immediately. Guards no longer tensed when humans passed. Instead, they stepped aside. Not in fear and trust, that's new, colleague said. Dachu nodded. They finally understand what it means, he replied. Captain Kim. Saren received the council's decision while her fleet held its steady pattern. She allowed herself a single breath of relief. Maintain presence, she ordered. No changes. Her first officer smiled. Faintly, they've accepted it, he said. Saren shook her head. They've accepted reality, she replied. Han Era felt the shift in smaller ways on a quiet station. An alien child stared at her without fear. When Ara knelt to return a dropped item, the child smiled. Are you Earthborn? The child asked. Era paused. Yes, she said. The child nodded, satisfied. As if that explained everything, Era stood slowly, for the first time. The word did not feel heavy. Across human space, fleets slowly adjusted, not withdrawing. Not advancing, settling, humanity had become a constant, not an empire, not a legend, a fact. Park Young-ji addressed the public one final time. Her message was short. "We will remain as we are," she said. Watchful, calm, ready. No cheers followed, only agreement. General Hejin retired that same year. At her farewell, she spoke to a small group. "Power is not what we can do," she said. "It is what we choose not to do." Her words spread quietly. In council archives, old warnings were rewritten into guidance. New officers trained with different manuals. Do not provoke, do not test, do not mistake silence for weakness. Hanea returned to Earth for the first time in many years. She walked through a city that barely noticed her. That was how she liked it. She visited a training hall once. Watched young humans learn balance, patience, and control. "Why do we train like this?" one asked. Dada answered softly. "So others don't have to fear us," she said. Beyond Earth, the galaxy stabilized. Conflicts still existed, but they ended faster. Not because humans fought them, because humans arrived. Presence mattered. Time passed. Stories. Changed Earthborn was no longer whispered. Was spoken plainly. A traitor delayed a risky run. An admiral reconsidered a strike. A council paused before approving force. Not because Earth demanded it, because Earth existed at a quiet observation window. Ara watched ships move in calm patterns across the stars. She felt no pride, only relief. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. It had taught it something harder: restraint. And in doing so, humanity had finally been seen, not as monsters, not as myths, but as what they had always been: Earthborn, and the galaxy would remember.